Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials: Facebook, 10, the IG. None of that TikTok stuff. Okay, we're too old for that, as Mike likes to say. And let's see, listen to us on Spotify for podcasters or wherever you get your podcast. We're out there for you, and watch us on YouTube. Way, here we are, woo, YouTube. Um, so this is a little different. We're gonna do something different covering the NFL. We're going to talk about the NFL and hit up on the upcoming games for week 6 as we record here on Thursday. We have Broncos Chiefs kicking off in a little while in Kansas City. We talk about week 6, get into a little bit of week 5, but our big focus that Mike and I talked about is we're going to do one of those tier maker things that we've kind of latched onto a bit. And queue it up and get all of the teams into 5 categories based on their performance so far. So it's kind of a quarterly thing, which quarterly is hard because it's 17 game season, 18 weeks with the bye. So that's a little weird. But that's what we're going to do. And we're going to see how it goes. And we hope you enjoy it. I know I'm certainly looking forward to it. Mike, how about you? What say you?
Yeah, very much looking forward to what we're about to do. And, Dave and I, of course, had defeats at the hands of some, I don't know, decent opponents. But I think that we'll discuss that when we get to the Bills and the Giants and this thing. But like Dave said, the NFL schedule makers, they changed everything around, and eventually there's going to be 18 games and everything be back to even numbers. My OCD hates these odd numbers, Dave.
Oh yeah,
but
mine too.
what are you
Mine
going to
too.
do?
Yep.
All right. So why don't you run us down the categories that we're going to put these teams in? What we're going to do is we're going to fill a category, nominate a team, and they'll go in. The first category we're going to fill up is Super Bowl contenders. So
Yep.
we'll put everybody in that we think is a Super Bowl contender, and then we'll go down the categories until we get all 32 teams. So,
Yep.
Dave, would you run us through the categories?
Yep. So we got the Super Bowl contenders there at the top, which is where we're going to start, is what we decided. Then we got the playoff teams, playoff contenders, if you will. Overachievers, of which there are a bunch, underachievers, which I also think there are a bunch. And
There are a
then
bunch, yeah.
my personal favorite, the first nominations of the year for Get Out of Here.
All right.
So we will see what happens there. There are some teams out there, Mike, that just might get the boot early. But anyways,
Beautiful.
tease, please continue to listen. Just a couple minutes in. Keep listening. We have some good stuff. So, Mike, Super Bowl contenders. There's some really obvious ones, I think. But why don't you start?
Well, I'll take the 1A off the board in the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, defending champions, lost that opening game to Detroit, and really have matured nicely since then. They found a rhythm with their offense, getting Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco involved. Of course, Kelsey continues to have just a phenomenal tight end season. I do wait for him to get dinged up. He does take he takes a lot of hits. He run blocks hard, and the tight end position usually not, they don't usually get too long in the tooth in the NFL, but he continues to play well.
Yeah, he got hurt last week, Mike. He got hurt.
Yeah.
Had to come out for a little bit, came back. He was a little tentative. You could see, that they put him in motion a lot and didn't run a ton of plays. He did get a touchdown, shocker, but it was, short yardage.
Well, what tells me he's healthy is they had him in for defense on the last play.
Yep.
It was a Hail Mary situation. They
Yep.
had, which is, smart. Take your tallest, most athletic player and, put him in the end zone. So
knock it down. Knock it down.
really banged up, he wouldn't have been out there. Um,
Yep.
so at 4-1, they're the first team that should be in Super Bowl contender for me, buddy.
Yep.
Do you
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
concur?
Yep. No, as much as it pains me, and they haven't played particularly well either. That should scare a couple of folks. It's funny, Mike. You're like, well, there it is, the 4-1 Chiefs, not even looking at two other teams who haven't even lost yet. One of them being your favorite Philadelphia Eagles, Mike, at 5-0. Again, there's another team won 5 games that has not played probably as good as they could, but they're undefeated at 5-0, Mike. Jalen Hurts looks good. The offense is playing well. The defense could play a little bit better, right? They've given up 104 points through 5 games. So it's certainly
Right.
a lot more than you would think they would do. But again, we talked about this earlier in the season and certainly at the beginning, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, just there's still some adjustments that need to be made there. But this is still a very, very good team and they haven't lost, Mike. So
no, and I agree. It's a soft 5-0 when you look at their opponents.
yeah.
Patriots, who aren't very good, Vikings, who are crumbling, Buccaneers, who were feisty early, but really, way out of the league of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The Commanders, not very good. And the Rams, that was a decent win against the Rams, 23-14 last week.
Yeah.
But then, they have the Jets this week, and then they get into some tough games with the Dolphins and the Cowboys. But yeah, a
Yep.
soft 5-0, but absolutely their defense scares me, dude. That when they put it all together with that pass rush,
Mm-hmm.
it's something to behold. So you're right, and I'll take. Speaking of scary pass
Yeah.
rushes, I'll nominate in the other
Oh,
5-0
yes.
team, the San Francisco 49ers, probably the most impressive team so far
Oh,
this season
no
because
doubt.
they've won in a bunch of different ways. They're tough. They're running the ball like crazy. They just continue to execute on
Mm-hmm.
all levels. Again, they haven't exactly played a tough schedule either with the Steelers, Rams, Giants, Cardinals, and Cowboys as their wins, but still, like I said, they've shown to be versatile. The decision to go with Brock Purdy and not look back has been a tremendous decision by John Lynch in the front office.
Yep. Agreed.
So as long as their health stays solid, then they're going to be right there at the end, I think. Did you see Kittle scored on that tight end flea flicker play? And earlier in the day, the Detroit tight end scored on the same exact play.
Yeah.
ESPN
Laporta.
ran them side by side. Yeah,
Oh,
Laporta.
geez.
And it was the exact same play. And Kittle said after the game, yeah, I know that kid from our tight end camp that we run. And I immediately texted our offensive coordinator and said, we've had that same play in our playbook for a year and a half and was never called it. We're doing it better today. And sure enough, they did.
Wow.
It's just a fun little football story. But yeah, the Niners, Super Bowl contenders.
Yep. And in the category of nobody gives a crap, Laporta on my fantasy team doing well. George Kittle
Mm-hmm.
on my oldest son's fantasy team. And he had Kittle and the 49ers defense going into the last game. And I had a big lead and he beat me by 2 freaking points.
Oh, that's brutal.
Because the
When you
Niners
feel
won
comfortable, right?
42-10,
Right.
and their defense was great, and Kittle had 3
Yeah.
touchdowns. So, yeah,
Yeah.
sad day for me. I thought for sure I had a win. Anyways, Mike,
So I'm interested to see where you go next, buddy, since you're up.
yep,
If you go anywhere next.
I have no other Super Bowl contenders at this point.
So the Miami Dolphins, them of the 70 burger, 4-1, scored 181 points, rushing the ball at a prolific rate. Tua, I mean, the offensive weapons are just scary. Did you hear the Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale that his wife asked him
Yes.
how he's sleeping,
It
getting
is
ready
sleeping like a
for
baby.
yeah, get up every 2 hours and cry and then go to the
Go to the
bathroom.
bathroom
Yeah.
and then go back to bed. Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious. No, I do not have the
So
Dolphins
make
there.
make the case for me against them then, because I would I'm nominating them then for the Super Bowl contender.
Yeah. What I have, and they certainly are very prolific. Where I worry is their defense. They've given up 135 points. And what
You
I've
noticed I skipped
seen,
that stat, huh?
yep. Oh, yeah. And what I've seen, so interestingly, we watched the beginning of this uh, game this last week for the Dolphins, and they open up and they're marching up and down the field. Um, and, Mike says, oh, they're going to throw 70 on us. And then they do what they have done in all of the games this year. They make some boneheaded plays. They have some bad turnovers. And I think those are the things that are going to keep them. When I look at the other three teams that are Super Bowl contenders, those teams are not doing that. The Dolphins are. And for me, splitting hairs, but that's where I say, I just don't think the Dolphins are going to be there.
Okay. I can get on board with that. They haven't proven it yet, and the other teams have proven it. So
But
I'll
if you
accept
want to
that.
put
No,
Miami there, we can do that.
no, I'm okay. We'll slot them down. So our next category is playoff contenders. So these are teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs, in our opinion, and
Yep.
may go up to Super Bowl contenders as the season matures. So the first one in there is Miami for us, right?
Yes. Yep. No doubt. They're definitely one of the first teams that I wrote in there for that.
Okay. Very good. Well, I don't want to take them because, well, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep.
Um, I think they're a solid playoff team. We've seen Trevor Lawrence really mature on some of his
Mm-hmm.
throws and decision making. He's really the game slowed down for him, and that's what it does as you get into the league after a couple of years, and he's throwing balls with anticipation. I mean, Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley have just been tremendous for them, running the ball. As you saw in London this past week, all over the place with ATN.
Yeah, when you're running against a defensive line that was,
Oh,
decimated by
decimated.
injuries for sure. But it doesn't change the fact that ATN is a very good runner. He's going to get his yards even against the best defenses. No, I agree. Jacksonville, a week ago, I would have said, not so sure, but they started to show signs in the Bills game of how they played down the stretch last year and then into the playoffs, right? So, yeah, I agree. I think Jacksonville plus their division still, I think they get in.
Yeah,
But it's more about their merit than it is about the division's lack of merit.
that's fair. That's fair. So I took the Jaguars. What's your next
Oh, I got to
nomination? I
put the
think.
Bills in there. I mean,
Okay,
there's
that was
no,
a team I said I'd stay away from and let you
yep,
do. Yeah,
yep, yep. No two ways about it. I mean, two tough losses certainly, and the loss of Milano for the season, Daquan Jones. We don't know if it's for the season, but he's gone on IR. Um,
Tre'Davious
they
White.
lose
Yep.
Trey White, of course. Um, very, very challenging on the defensive side of the ball, which arguably before last week, you could say was playing better than the offense, quite honestly,
Right.
with how they were performing. So, how the Bills handle the injuries moving forward and how, you know, Terrell Dodson steps up and Williams to fill that linebacker spot. Uh,
Sure.
that's going to determine a lot about how Buffalo goes. Offensively, I'm not worried about it.
Are you
They're going to score
concerned with
points.
Josh Allen? is going to take this as I have to play a little bit of hero ball and help my defense out and get out of the rhythm and the running game, try to
Mhm.
force a few passes,
You
that kind
know,
of thing. I think if he stays in the game plan, he's going to have enough opportunities to make spectacular plays. He doesn't have to force it. If he tries to do an extra 5% to help out because of these injuries, that could be a problem. That's where he gets to make some mistakes.
yep. And
So
I
are you
think
concerned about
that's
that?
what, no. And I think that's what you saw in the first game against the Jets. I think since then, you've seen Josh Allen go, okay, that was certainly a wake up call. Lots of different things going on. Obviously, he has played tremendously, leading the league in completion percentage at 73%. He's having a great season. No, I'm not. I'm not concerned
Okay.
because I think what I've seen in the other four games is the changes and the type of play that I think Bills fans were kind of hoping for. You still want to see him take a run every now and again, and he'll do that. But not as many designed runs as you've seen. So I don't think that's going to happen. But
Okay.
anyways, yes, keeping the Bills there as a playoff contender. Mike, who do you got next?
Dave, I have the Baltimore Ravens. They're playoff contenders. The Lamar Jackson, shade that I throw at him.
Oh yes, you
But
throw
that
shade.
that defense is tremendous. And when they got Roquan Smith last year from the Bears and Queen and all those guys flying around making tackles, they're
Mm-hmm.
running the ball even without some injuries in the backfield.
Yep.
Um, the wide receivers have been a little better than we thought coming into the season. And of course, Andrews, the tight end, is a stud. Um, at 3-2, uh, tied for first place in their division. Uh, I think their best football still ahead of them, and they've been there before. Lamar's. Is this his sixth season, fifth or sixth season anyway?
Yeah.
Um, and I really believe in the coach, so I'll put the Ravens in playoff contender. What say you?
Yep. Oh yeah, I totally agree. Certainly a tough loss this last week against the Steelers. Uh, just really just kind of total collapse and the Steelers just making the right plays at the right time. And kudos for the Steelers. But ultimately, yeah, the offense is there. The defense is played well. Um, yeah. And it was a
Okay.
17-10 game against the Steelers. So yeah, no, I agree. Baltimore is right there. I would expect them to win the AFC North based on how I think their season will play out. So yes, Baltimore Ravens, check.
Uh, Dave, your turn. I'm curious. We've been kind of on an AFC run.
Yep.
I've kind of done that on purpose because I
Yep. Yep.
wanted to get to this point. What's your next nomination, buddy?
My next nomination is the Dallas Cowboys.
So before you
Um,
go on, you don't have anyone else in the AFC as a contender.
for the playoffs, I do not.
Okay. Can I throw
I
at
do not.
you, submit to you that the Pittsburgh Steelers at 3-2, leading their division, tied with the Ravens, have to be considered a playoff contender? I'm
I
not
could,
convinced. That's why I'm throwing it out there.
yeah. I mean, I
Here's the
think,
stat against it.
yeah. Go for it.
They have scored 79 total points and they've given up 110.
110. Yeah.
So when you have a negative
31.
differential,
Yeah.
like you said, um, really kind of lucked into that win last week, uh, and a little banged up. But TJ Watt, man, that dude,
Oh,
and Hayward or Hayward, Cam Hayward in the
yeah.
middle,
Mm-hmm.
they've really got something special. Again, I said this last week. I don't think they've solved the quarterback problem. So I could really go either way. I'm only bringing them up because of where they are right now. We came
Yeah.
into this saying what they've done so far this season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, do I think
And
they'll be there? No. Ultimately, I don't think they'll be even in the playoffs.
yeah,
I guess so.
yeah,
Maybe that settles it for me.
yeah. Well, and so this was, I think, some of the teams where I looked at right in that spot, I would say Pittsburgh is overachieving
Okay.
because they're in first place. Um, and for all those reasons, I mean, the offense has really struggled. You know, Kenny Pickett has not been the steadying influence that I think people thought he might be,
Right.
even though it's just his second year and his first full year as the starter there in Pittsburgh.
All right. So good. I wanted to have that conversation at that point because that's a good line of demarcation for these categories.
Yep, yep.
Uh, so go on with the stars on their helmet.
Yeah, stars on their helmets. The Dallas Cowgirls at 3-2. Uh, boy, they if you look at their 5 games, Mike, this is the Jekyll and Hyde team that the Dallas Cowboys always are, right? They
Right.
they
Right.
get out, they show you these tremendous efforts. You know, they womp on the first 2 teams. Everything looks, hunky dory. And then, what's happened? 1-2 in your last 3. And they get stomped by the 49ers last week in a game that just wasn't even close. I had Dak Prescott starting. I don't know why
Oof.
in my fantasy.
Oof.
Four freaking points for a quarterback. That's pretty terrible.
Wow. Wow.
Another
That is bad.
reason why I lost to Brady this week.
Yeah.
Had I played Joe Burrow, I would have been fine. But again, Joe Burrow, I was like, we're still, verdict is
Yeah.
still out on how he's playing this year. But anyways, we're talking about the Cowgirls. Defense is still decent. They've only given up 83 points. But this is the Jekyll and Hyde, and they're good enough, obviously, to make the playoffs, and I think they will do that. The NFC right now, I think, still kind of light as far as teams
Yes,
challenging.
someone's got to make the playoffs there,
Somebody's got
right?
to make the playoffs, and based on their talent, I think Dallas does that. So
Okay.
put them
I
down as a
question their,
playoff team.
yeah, you have to. I do question their skill position. I don't think they have enough talent at wide receiver.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, with CD Lamb is nice, but he's not that. He's not a cut above. Gallup, I just don't see a Pollard. Everyone wanted Pollard at running back, but they don't have a bruiser that can give you
yeah,
those tough yards. And ultimately, it comes down to Dak Prescott, and that's what the Niners expose. What you just said is when Dak has to play again, 5% above his normal play, he can't. He just makes mistakes.
yeah.
So I think, and your Jekyll and Hyde analogy is perfect for them. So reluctantly, though, playoff team for sure.
Yep.
And then the next NFC team that's a playoff team for sure is the Detroit Lions. I am
Yes.
so
Oh,
impressed with them.
Oh,
Uh,
it is so exciting and refreshing to
yeah,
see a Detroit team doing well with the young talent and fiery Dan Campbell there as their
yeah.
coach.
I thought it was going to be a sideshow when he first, started,
And it
in the
was for a
league,
little
and
while.
it was, he's biting kneecaps or whatever. But um, the guts of that team is tremendous. Goff has really gone up in the respect factor. They beat the Chiefs on that opening night, great win. Lose in overtime, tough game to the Seahawks, who we'll talk about in a minute, I'm sure. And then they've beaten the Falcons, the Packers, and then they blew out the Panthers last week, which is what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That game, it was 41-24 or 42-24, and it was over by halftime in that game. So Detroit, yeah, I think ultimately they're going to fall short because of lack of experience and Dan Campbell's decision making with the clock. We haven't seen what he can do yet there,
or what he can't do.
or can't do.
Yeah, yeah.
I know he can't call as Mario Cristobal of the University of Miami, but we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, Detroit, all the respect, all the love
Yeah.
to them. Playoff contender for sure. Anyway, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
who's next for you, but
Yep. You mentioned it, Mike. We're not going to go that far. The Sea Chickens, 3-1. Offensively, Geno Smith is continuing to play well. There was some thoughts maybe he wouldn't. Made the Pro Bowl last year. And he continues to play well. And the defense is playing, gamely. They've given up 91 points. Okay. But again, in a lighter NFC, I think you have to put the Sea Chickens in there. Yeah, they're
yeah,
able
there's not much more to say.
yeah, there's not much more to say. They're able to run the ball and play good defense. Have to like them at this point at 3-1.
Yep.
And that's 3-1 in the NFC. They've played all their games in conference as well. So that piece will help them. And could potentially hurt the Dallas right now, as Dallas is 1-2 in the conference early on.
Right. Right. No, I agree. I don't have anybody else listed as a playoff team. Next is contenders. Do you have anyone else that you see that you would like to nominate?
Well, I put Tampa Bay in there.
Yeah, it's the same argument as we did Pittsburgh, right? So I guess we have
Yeah,
to put. You're right. For consistency's sake, we need to put Pittsburgh or Tampa Bay in there too.
they're 3-1. They're leading their division. They're not scoring a lot of points, but they've only given up 68. Your boy, the mascot there, has played pretty decently for them.
There's
They're
a team
just
whose skill positions outshine their quarterback and
yeah,
their line, really.
yeah,
With Evans and Goodwin and I mean, Cameron Bray, who I apparently have a love affair with because I mention him every podcast. But that defense is tremendous still. So you're right. We have to put them in there
yeah.
just to be consistent. So contenders for the playoffs. We already talked about the Steelers, right? We made the case for them.
Well, the
Um,
overachievers is our category.
oh, right, overachievers, right?
So is that where we're putting Pittsburgh in the overachiever category?
Overachievers.
Okay.
So do
Yep.
you have anybody else in playoff contention?
I do not.
Okay, I do not either.
Yep.
All
So
right.
we've got Pittsburgh there in overachievers. Um, Mike, I also would like to put your Cleveland Browns in
Mm,
the overachiever category at 2-2. They're only a half game back. They've only given up 60 points, Mike. Their defense has been very, very good.
yep.
The offense, Deshaun Watson, struggle bus for sure, still figuring things out. As
Starting to
far
come around though,
starting to come
unfortunately.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I see them in the overachiever category because at 2-2, they're at 500 and close to their division. So
Right.
and playing good defense. So I have
Yep.
Cleveland in the overachievers.
Um, Staying in the NF or AFC, the San Diego Superchargers, who are now in Los Angeles, at 2-2, figured
Hmm.
out they won 2 games with defensive interceptions on the last play, games that for years and multiple administrations they've figured out a way to lose.
This is
Now,
true.
their talent, especially on offense, is undeniable. Although, stop me if you heard this, Mike Williams out for the season. That really sucks. Uh, but Keenan Allen and Eckler, Quentin Johnson, I mean, they've got a lot of good options. That their tight end Fam is very good, big possession receiver, especially in the red zone.
He's
I just don't know if,
famulous, you could say.
well, you could say it.
Yeah.
But I don't know ultimately uh, if their defense has what it takes to deliver a playoff run. But I'd say they're overachieving right now, just based on those 2 wins in tight situations and their propensity to blow that in the past. So that's my case for them as overachieving.
Interesting. I had them in the underachieving category. because when you look at their two losses, those were also two
Mm,
close games that they lost. Very well, this team could be 4-0 or 0-4,
true.
based on all of that. So I had them in underachieving just because I felt like they should be a little bit better. Um, but at
I guess,
500, and I put Cleveland at 500. So I could be convinced to put the Chargers in the overachieving.
yeah, I think we need to define overachieving a little better for everyone. I tell me if you're thinking differently, but these are teams that have played well, been a little bit of a surprise, and with a little bit of luck and gelling together can enter, the playoffs. And I just think that the Chargers are right there on the cusp of that. Now, they haven't proven historically that they can actually do that, so we'll find out.
Yeah.
But
Yep. No, I'm
but
with you.
yeah,
I'm with you there as far as that goes. Um, they certainly could put a run together, and I think both of us picked them in the beginning of the season as our
yeah,
surprise team that could do well. So we should stay true to our earlier
for
thoughts.
the
So
19th season in a row, I like the Chargers. Yeah,
Chris
but
Berman, the Bills and the Niners in the Super Bowl for the 20th straight year. All right, so Chargers. Mike has the Chargers.
yeah.
Let's
Who do you have
see.
next?
I put the Houston Texans in the overachieving category, Mike. Uh, at 2-3, this was a team that we had basically said better luck next year, right out of the gate. And they've been they've been game, right? CJ Stroud has
Yeah,
played some good games, and
yeah. I got to admit,
um
he's played better than I thought he would
yeah, and
out of
this is
college.
this is
Yep.
not this is not a this is not a walk in the park for teams to show up and just think they're going to beat the Texans. I mean,
Right.
115 points scored. Oh, they've allowed 100. So, that's challenging too. But this is not a
Sure.
team that is just going to roll over and play dead for you. And so, because of that, I feel like they're in the overachieving category. Do I think they'll make the playoffs? No, but I think they're not underachieving and they're not in the get
Right.
out of here category. So they got to be overachieving.
I agree. I agree. We'll put them in there.
Ding,
And
ding.
their division mates that you skipped right over, I noticed, is the Indianapolis Colts
Mhm.
at 3-2, and they're an interesting team because when Anthony Richardson's playing quarterback, they're one style and it's exciting, and my fears with him is, one, he's inaccurate, which is true, and two, he's a little frail, and already he's
Which is
missed,
also true.
also been true. But Gardner Minshew, probably the best backup in football, um, with apologies to Mitch Trubisky or whoever else is, or Tyrod Taylor. Um, when he's in, they play more ball control and play action and
Yeah.
a little bit of a throwback offense. But with their line, they can do that. And now, Zach Moss has turned into Gale Sayers back there all of a sudden, and Jonathan Taylor's coming back.
Yep.
Um, they're overachieving. They're like the definition of
Yep.
overachieving, in my opinion.
Yep. Yep. Nope. I agree. I agree. I had them on my list as well.
Okay,
For all of the reasons. And
excellent.
they're 3-2. So tied there for first
Yep.
place with the Jaguars. Oh, let's see. Who else do I have next? Mike, the Atlanta Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
3-2. So just a half game back. Not sure on Desmond Ritter. He makes some good plays. He makes some not so good plays, but that's kind of typical of a second year quarterback, as we were talking about
Sure.
in Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett, kind of the same deal. But they've managed to win 3 games. They've, only scored 83 points, given up 96. Um, but I think they're overachieving a little bit. This was a team I think we thought could potentially make a playoff run. Um, some of that's based on their division right now, but you got to put them there at 3-2, Mike.
Yeah, no, you're right on it. Like everything you just said, it was exactly what I was thinking. So, um, and those two games they lost could have easily gone the other way, and they could be 5-0. Um, I think Arthur Smith as a coach has really uh, developed his own system. He's finally stepped into his manhood. Like okay, so Bill Parcells, legendary Giants coach. First few years as a Giants coach, he tried to make everybody happy, tried to do everything for everybody, and ended up being nothing. And when he said, "Listen, I have to win, or I'm going to get fired. I'm just going to be me." That's when the Giants took off. Now drafting Lawrence Taylor didn't hurt,
No,
but
no, but the change in mentality, and it's very
right.
well documented. I'm trying to think. There's a book that just came out, and I can't think of who. Oh, um, Gary Myers,
Okay.
long time sports reporter,
Writer and reporter, yeah.
writer and reporter, and he did a thing. I believe it was on the '86 Giants, but it was also some historical stuff, and he talked specifically about Parcells and that exact moment when he said, I need to be done trying to be everybody's friend, and I need to
Right.
start doing this, and I need the support of that." Um, and that meant, a change in
Right.
how he was doing things, and LT helps.
LG definitely helped. And look at their coaching staff. Some the '80s Giants coaching
Oh,
staff is
jeez.
it's just ridiculously
It
star-studded in
really is.
retrospect. But
Yeah.
a team if you have been listening to Lose With Us, and I hope you do, our gambling segment, a team I've been following all year
Oh, here we
is the
go.
New Orleans Saints, Dave.
Yep. Yep.
Also 3-2,
Yep.
and have been when Derek Carr was playing quarterback, have been really, really good.
Yep.
Now, maybe the worst backup in the league, famous Jameis Winston, has had to play some substantial minutes already, and that's hurt them. Um, that loss to the Packers, where they're up 17-0 at halftime, Carr gets
Oh,
hurt,
yeah.
and they lose 18-17.
Yeah.
That was a killer,
Yep.
So it's hard
Absolute
for
killer.
that gut shot. It's hard to say they're overachieving, but um, to put a 34-0 on the Patriots last week was really impressive.
Yep.
Um, and they're beating the teams they need to. They're going to be a good bad team. And if the end of the year you said they snuck into a wild card game, it wouldn't surprise me. So,
Nope. Not at
uh,
all.
New Orleans Saints, let's get some gumbo and overachieve.
Yep. Nope. I agree with you, Mike. I had the
Anybody
Saints
else in
as
that?
well. I have no other overachieving teams.
Um, uh, I wish the Rams won last week because I really like them this year as an underdog. Again, as a team that's going to surprise some people, and they still will as the season goes on. But I guess I'll take the first nomination for underachieving with them at 2-3 in one of the toughest divisions in football. Though
Yep.
the Cardinals certainly aren't holding up the back end of that.
No, they are not.
Um, they can score on offense for sure. I Their defense is banged up, and Aaron Donald. Um, did you see Philadelphia ran that diamond play at the goal line where they line up behind Hurts, and
Yeah.
Aaron Donald just stood up and walked away. He didn't even try. Of course, he's on the end. There was no
Yeah.
action. I don't think they even
Yes.
blocked him, but um, I think their secondary has been suspect for a while, and it's getting worse. And so, but Cooper Cup is back, and coupled with Puka
Yep.
Nakua, our new
Mm-hmm.
favorite Samoan American wide receiver. Um, they're going to challenge people, but right now at 2-3, it's just not good enough in that division or in the NFC, which there's plenty of opportunities for. So I'm going
Yep.
to put them in underachieving, Dave.
Yep. Yep. I had them there as well. There's enough talent there. They should be better than 2-3. Uh,
Right.
I got to dovetail back to
Yeah.
the diamond thing with the Eagles because I was in the car listening to uh, this past Sunday listening to the Eagles radio broadcast,
Howie Roseman.
and
Yeah.
it's very interesting because they're talking about that, how the quarterback gets pushed into the end zone, and so two things that I heard, and probably a lot of people have heard this, but I hadn't heard this one because it's in Philadelphia. They call it the brotherly shove.
Okay.
Brotherly love, Philadelphia, the
Sure.
city of brotherly love. And of course, the one that I think everybody has heard is the tush push.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, I have heard
So
that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
so those are funny. I figure it's good to like throw those things
Yeah.
in there, but the brotherly shove, and for the Philadelphia radio announcers to openly admit it,
Right.
I just thought was hilarious. Anyways, moving
I think
on.
it's crazy how quickly other teams have adapted that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
everywhere in college football.
Yep.
Some teams run it like every third play. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. But
Yeah. And
anyway,
they need to, the NFL, the competition committee needs to look at that. It's just, it's becoming an epidemic in the NFL. And it's really just, now I know the rules are you can't pull anybody, but you can push them.
right,
Well, you need to start making a rule that you can't push them either, because it really is just ridiculous. The defense, there's really nothing they can do to stop it.
right,
Um, I just think it's an
right.
epidemic, quite honestly.
Anyone that's had a kid in youth football that's maybe a little big boned or heavy in the pants,
Yep.
and been told they can't play running back because of a weight limit,
Yep.
it's the same kind of thing. I mean, yes, these are pros, and should it be like that? Like Dave, you hit it right on the head. Unfair competitive advantage, and that's not right. But anyway,
But anyways,
back to the underachievers.
back to
Who
the
do you have?
underachievers, Mike. I think the biggest one in this entire list is the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I wondered.
Um,
We ripped off that entire division quickly, and then all the way down to the Bengals,
yeah,
uh, of
yep,
underachieving.
yeah, underachieving. 2-3, all three losses for the Bengals in the AFC. That is going to be a major
Killer.
uphill climb. They're 0-2 in the division. Um, yeah, they've done okay. Their defense has not been very good. 114 points given up, and they haven't scored enough. We know Joe Burrow's been hurt. He seems to have been better the last 2 weeks. Uh, but they've got some proving to do, and that's hard to say, given how great they've been. AFC Championship game,
Right.
Super Bowl the year before that. But this team is underachieving. There's no two ways around it, Mike. And so, boom, underachieving
Yeah.
Bengals.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen any of the game tape of Jamar Chase, and how wide open he is when he doesn't get the ball? It's his route running, and his speed and quickness out of the break is unbelievable. And Burrow just doesn't have time, to get him the ball. You can run all the routes you want. If the quarterback's on his ass, you can't throw it. So, but no, they certainly have the talent to bounce back. But like you said, the definition of underachieving, the easiest one to
Yeah.
put in this category for me as well. Um, I'm going to go with another perennial playoff team in the Tennessee Titans.
Oh,
Sorry,
yes.
my Sean Connery got in there. Uh,
Mm.
uh, 2-3. How they won the two games, I don't know. How did we win? It's a miracle.
Yeah. Well, the
Um,
two games that Ryan Tannehill has played well, they've won. In the three games that
right,
he's played like crap, they've lost. I mean, it's really that simple. They
right.
have been almost, almost as Jekyll and Hyde as the Cowboys, quite honestly.
Yeah. Their skill positions, aside from Derrick Henry, who we know is going to has been hurt, is going to get hurt again. You just can't you can't give out and take that much punishment, and the human body, rebounds so
Yep.
quickly. So I agree. They're going to have to move on from Tannehill probably after the season. Of course, we had my boy Willis from Liberty University
Yeah.
last year. it all set up perfectly where he could have come in and taken them to the playoffs, and he threw a big popcorn fart out there on us. But
What you talking about, Willis?
there it is.
There it is.
But yeah, underachieving the Tennessee Titans for me, buddy.
Yep, no doubt. Mike, the Las Vegas Raiders. I think another team.
The Raiders.
Underachieving at 2-3. Defense has not played well. Jimmy G up and down, in and out of the lineup. Tell me if you've heard that one before. They've only scored 79 points through 5 games, Mike. Devontae Adams had a couple of games where did you even know he was on the field? Like,
yeah,
yikes, just not good. And so they're underachieving. They have enough talent. They should be better than 2-3.
Yeah, totally agree. And we'll just finish off the AFC West. For me, the Raiders. I'm never, or not the Raiders, the Broncos. I'm not ready to say get out of here for their nomination, but they're very close to me. Sean Payton has just been terrible as a head coach. We had the
disaster.
whole Hackett controversy in the offseason. But he and Russell Wilson are not jiving. We saw that in the last game where Wilson had that horrible sack fumble, give up the scoop and score.
Yep.
And they had some words with Wilson going off. And for Wilson to bark back, just not in his nature. You say whatever you want about Russell Hustle and Bustle, but he is not that guy. And maybe Jerry Jeudy and those guys aren't as good as we thought from a skill position spot, but that roster is just not very good. It would take a miracle and a half for them to get back into even a wild card contention. But at the quarter pole here in the season, my nomination is underachieving. What say you?
Mike, this team is 0-3 at home, 0-3 in the conference. Now, they've given up the most points in the league. Of course, that includes the 70 burger from the Dolphins. This team is going nowhere fast.
Are they on your hit list?
They're underachieving, but they are on the get out of here list for me, Mike.
Okay. Let's see. How are we going to settle this? Well, let's look at their schedule. Let's do an old-fashioned Mike and the Mad Dog win-loss, win-loss, loss-loss, win.
That's a win. That's a loss.
Huge. This is a huge game.
Well, they're playing the Chiefs right now, so that's a loss.
That's a loss. Then they got your Bills.
No, then they got Green Bay.
Whose schedule am I looking at?
I don't know. They have Green Bay. That's a loss.
That's a loss.
The Chiefs again. That's a loss. They have the Bills. That's a loss.
Vikings.
Then
we haven't
Vikings.
Talked about yet, but
the Browns, the Texans, the Chargers, Detroit, New England, the Chargers.
All right.
The Raiders.
Do it.
Denver Broncos. Get out of here.
Nice.
The first of the season.
Folks. Yeah. Denver Broncos.
Broncos. So back to
underachieving.
Underachieving, Mike. The Washington Commanders. 2-3. They feel like they've played okay at times, but they've given up 160 points, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really, really, really bad. Second worst in the league to the Broncos. But they've managed to win 2 games, but 1-3 in the conference. Washington underachieving.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like some of their offensive skill positions, McLaren for sure, and Dotson. I don't think Sam Howell is as bad as some people I've heard say. I would say he's a below average quarterback, but he's not terrible. He's
No, no.
probably an upgrade from Heineke and whoever else they were rolling out. Definitely over Wentz or
Hmm.
anybody else like that.
Yeah.
So I agree they're underachieving, and of course, because they're in my division, I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, I'm sure
Speaking
you
of
are.
my division, Dave, the New York Football Giants.
Yep.
I want to put them
Underachieving.
underachieving, but I'll defer to you because I'm looking at them with rose-colored glasses, which is hard to do as poorly as they've played and
Yeah.
as beat up as they are. But so I'll let you decide what you want to do with
Wow.
the Giants. I won't even.
Well, it's interesting. I had them in the underachieving, and I think that's because I feel like there's talent there,
Right.
and but geez, Mike, when I look at the numbers, 1-3 in the conference, they've scored 62 points, which is, I believe, the worst in the. Oh no, the Patriots have only scored 55.
Oh, great.
So they're in humble, but they've given up 153. Uh, the struggle is real for the Giants.
Yeah.
I guess for me, not putting them in get out of here is just feeling like there's talent. They had some success, last year, obviously, feeling like they could build on that. I'm not ready to say get out of here, so I'm going to leave them in the underachieving.
Oh, I appreciate that, Mercy. Um, the the part that drives me crazy is based on what they did last year. Did I think they were going to come out and be Super Bowl contenders this year? No, but I thought that was a good base to build off of, and we're going to be just about in every game, and we're going to be physical, and all that.
Yep.
Now, I don't know what's wrong with Andrew Thomas's hamstring, but this is
Mm.
the fourth game in a row he's missed. When you're left, our line, which wasn't great to begin with, is so beat up. They lost the center, and everything has just been shuffled around. They had two guys that had just got called up from the practice squad playing in the last game, most of the game on the line. Um, and why can't we get the rookie? I always get his name wrong. Please correct me in advance. Jalen Hyatt from
Yeah, Jalen
Tennessee.
Hyatt. Yep, you got it right
Okay,
the
I always
first
want to
time.
say Wyatt for some reason. Um, he made two big plays in the second game of the year, and it hasn't been heard from since.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of mediocre talent at wide receiver, and Shepard and Slayton
Hmm.
and those guys. They, for some reason, thought Wayndale Robinson was going to be turning into Debo Samuel last game and
Mm.
ran him on all these, ends arounds and sprints and stuff. And
Yep.
um, I don't know. Bottom line is when both lines are severely underachieving. The offensive line because they're hurt. The
Yep.
defensive line, I don't know where the pass rusher's gone. Leonard Williams,
No.
he signed that contract and hasn't
Yep.
done a thing since.
Yep. He's
Um,
been
you know,
eating too many Oreos, as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned.
Dexter Lawrence is playing fine, at defensive tackle. Thibodeau, I think, is not lived up to the billing so far. You can see the talent.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. You can see the talent. I mean,
so
he's there, but yeah, the defense has been an absolute mystery. I
yeah,
think to everybody, including the coaching staff, quite honestly. But when you talk about Jalen Hyatt, Mike, I think the answer is Daniel Jones has spent way too much time on his back. Even if they
yeah,
wanted to
that's
get
true.
him the ball, they just haven't been able to. So uh, we'll
I agree.
see.
All right,
We'll
let's get off
see
the
with the
Giants.
Giants. Yeah,
Uh,
let's get off the Giants. Just because everybody else already has. Um,
Minnesota
Mike, yes, the
Vikings.
Minnesota
Yeah.
Vikings absolutely have to be there. Um, Kirk Cousins putting up good numbers, but they're
Well,
one and they're
Jefferson's now out for
they're
four
1-4.
games.
Yep,
Yep.
Jefferson is out. That's going to hurt them. They're 0-3 at home, Mike. All
Ouch.
the close games, which we knew it would catch up to them, all the close games that they won, 11-0 last year. I think they're 1-3 maybe in the close games or 1-2 in the close game. I mean, it's,
Right. All
you
the
know,
bounces that went their way last year are
yep,
going the other way this year. That's
not
just the way it
going.
works.
Yep. And,
I know I harp on it, but not re-signing Dalvin Cook, for some reason
yeah.
that struck me as, oh boy, they're going to be in trouble this
Yep.
year.
Huge,
And
huge
it's
balance with him on the
right,
offense.
right. So with Jefferson hurt, they're in last place and fading. Will Kirk Cousins be traded at the
Mm,
mid-season this year?
which is the end of, I think the deadline is Halloween, right? October
Yeah, right
31st.
around there. Right. Jefferson won't be back before the trade deadline. I know that. I
Boy,
heard that today.
I, they'd have to not win again
Right.
between now and
And I
then.
don't even know if they have, any other plan at quarterback besides him. But
No, that so
um,
they, if you do the Mike and the Mad Dog, they play the Bears this week. You would think that'd be a win. Home for the Niners, that's a loss. Home for Green Bay,
mm-hmm.
on the road for Atlanta, home for New Orleans. Those are some games that could go either way, but they could lose all of those games too. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so you have between now and the trading deadline, you have at Chicago, home for the Niners, at Green Bay.
Well,
They could be two losses for sure. Um, yeah, not looking good for
yeah.
Minnesota. Underachieving, as we said.
Yeah.
Mike, anybody else underachieving?
Underachieving. I mean, the Packers, I think you have to put right in there
Yes.
too, kind of
Yep.
a little bit better. Jordan Love, one game looks, calm and steady. And the next game, it looks like a young quarterback. And that's what you
Yep.
get. He could have sat on the bench for 10 years. His first season, being the QB1, this is what you get up and down games. Their running game has not been what I thought it would be going into the season. With
Nope.
Jones, who's been hurt, and Dillon, I thought they would be able to run the ball quite a bit and protect Love a little. And as a consequence, the defense is on the field all the time, and you get 2 and 3, and that division is strangely uh, upside down almost from what
Yes.
it's been in the
Yeah.
last 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Green Bay Packers in uh,
Underachieving.
underachieving.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Nope. That's it for me.
What about the Bears?
Oh no.
No. Okay.
Yep.
I thought I'd get a chuckle.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, by my count, there's 5 more teams that we have for the get out of here
Well, one of them's already in
category.
there is the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
So
Uh,
I've got
I've got
4 more teams.
Cardinals, Panthers, Bears, Patriots, and Jets.
Oh, the Jets. Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Oh, I forgot about the Jets.
Now, do you want to put the Jets in underachieving?
Yeah, I think so.
Wilson's starting to not look great, but a little better. That defense is tremendous, as we know. Brees Hall's off his pitch count. They really have weapons everywhere.
Yeah.
If Zach Wilson can just become a game manager,
And play the way he played this last week against the
right.
Broncos. Yeah,
I think
I
we
had
have to
totally
put them in
forgotten about the
underachieving.
Jets. Yes. So the
Yeah.
Jets underachieving, no doubt.
Yeah.
The other teams Mike mentioned, the Patriots, as we said, the lowest scoring offense in the league at 55 points.
Is this it for Belichick? I refuse to believe the game has passed him by, unquote, unquote, that people like to throw out there. But
No.
he played it fast and loose with his coordinators. Last year he had a two-headed monster.
Right.
The team is inundated with nepotism between his sons being involved, and everybody that's ever coached for him or for Nick Saban, taking turns, leading position groups. Um, I think their defense is solid, but another team whose defense is on the field all the time. I think Mac Jones would have been a good bridge quarterback to a younger project, but they just don't have that younger project, behind him. So I just don't see where they're going to do anything in the next couple of years. Does
No,
Belichick want to stick around for that? Does he want to stick around for a rebuild? Does does he get an all-time
no.
pass if he went 0-16 for the next 3 seasons? In New England after the
Yeah.
last 20 years.
Yeah. I don't think Bob Kraft would keep him, and I think Belichick would just say I'm out. Mike, 131.7th worst in the league. So you say the defense is okay, but it's
Well, I'm just saying they're okay and they're on the field all the time.
yeah,
So
and yes, and
they're getting, yeah.
that is eroding away at that. Yeah, I don't
It's
think
a
the
defense you
game.
can win games with, but
Yeah.
you have to have a strong offense to go where they you just don't
Yep.
have it.
Yep. I
Yeah.
think when you see every week a stat that is, well, this hasn't happened since Bill Belichick's first year, or this hasn't happened since Bill Belichick has been coaching the Patriots, and it's every week with one of those stats,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
then you know it's bad. At 1-4, no, the Patriots,
I
get
can't
out
believe
of
they
here.
haven't. I stepped on it. I'm sorry.
Nope, nope,
I
they're
can't
out.
believe they haven't gone to Bailey Zappi, as a
Well, they have
at
the
least a
last they
spark.
have the last 2 weeks, but Belichick
Yeah,
continues to say Mac Jones is the starter,
not
but he's been
starting though.
pulled
Right.
for the last 2 weeks. So um yeah,
Right.
what about New England? So they play the Raiders this week, then they play the Bills, the Dolphins,
That's the other problem. Their division's loaded.
the Commanders, then the
Yeah.
Colts.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are all they're going to be difficult games
Very
for the
losable.
Patriots to win. Um, and so, yep, yep.
So if I said uh, you could place a bet for over under 3.5 total wins this season with one in the bag already, do you think they get to 4 wins?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
Without
Hey,
without glancing any more at the
right.
schedule, I
Right.
would think
No, right.
four
Sight unseen.
wins,
Yep.
but 4 wins is pretty bad.
No, I agree. I agree, but
You
that's
know,
where they are. That's how bad they are. That's how
yeah.
much they deserve to get out of here. Speaking of bad, the Chicago Bears, Dave,
Mm.
boy, I was ready to bury them, have their coach get fired, the GM, Poles and Eberflus, uh, Fields to get
Eberflus,
cut.
you're a nominee for Coach of the Year, Mike.
Let's not look back at that kind of stuff, Dave. We don't talk about those
Oh no, we
mistakes.
we talk about it, Mike. 11,
Listen, if they
11 to
won,
1 odds for
yeah,
Eberflus,
if they
Coach of the
won,
Year.
came out and win the division and make a playoff appearance, of course he would have been
Of
coach of the
course,
year. But
Stevie Covers had Brian Dayball, so that doesn't look that much better
yeah,
either.
who did you have since you
Yeah,
throwing it all out there?
it's funny because I was like, I'm looking at all that, like, where's my list? Who did I have?
Um,
Um,
but I mean, the Bears, obviously, the Alvin Williams, the defensive coordinator, and all that off the field nonsense, but on the field too. I mean, Chase Claypool uh, basically quits on the team and gets jettisoned to Miami, which is an upgrade for him, frankly. But certainly his last team he'll probably be on in the NFL unless he turns it around. Uh, Khalil Herbert, Cole Clement, they just don't have a solid roster as they should, I think. But why, after what we saw Fields do last year at the end of the season, where they rolled him out and opened him up a little, let him play loose and free,
mhm.
he played so well, and then they regressed to start the
Oh,
season and
excuse me.
went, whoa, bless you.
Ooh,
Um,
thanks.
they came out and regressed drastically in it offensively, and I just don't understand the thinking there. But yeah, when your golden pipes are ready, the Chicago Bears are ready to get
Oh,
out of here.
yes. They are on the proverbial bus and get out of here, Chicago. You
Nice.
are gone.
Gone.
Goodbye.
And then just quickly, the Cardinals and the Panthers, Dave.
Oh, I had Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year.
Oh, look at you.
Woo! Sorry,
Yeah,
I was
cash that
searching
ticket.
through
Yeah.
all my
No,
all
it's
these
all right.
papers I have here, and like, what the heck is this? I was trying to find it. There it is. Yeah, yeah. Dan
You
Campbell,
can
Coach
cash
of the
that
Year.
ticket now, buddy. Yeah.
Right.
Arizona Cardinals 1-4. Of course, they lose Kyler Murray. They bring in Josh Dobbs with like 7 days before camp ends. They're tough. You know, there's a team that plays with heart. They play tough, but they just don't have any talent. Apologies to Connor, but they just at every position they're struggling. This will certainly uh, be a lost season for them. Even if Kyler Murray comes back and plays lights out, it'd probably be an audition for what team he'll be on next season, because I don't think he'll be around in Arizona anymore either.
Nope.
But the Arizona Cardinals 1-4, negative point differential, and just not looking good. Dave, the Arizona Cardinals,
Get out of here.
yeah, and then the Panthers 0-5. Bryce Young finally looked okay this past week, but they continue to. I really thought between Young and Stroud, Ohio State and Alabama, respectively, coming out of college, that Bryce Young would be the better quarterback, and he still may end up being that. But so far, the early receipts are, C.J. Stroud is well outperforming him,
Yep.
and the Panthers in a total rebuild. Certainly not in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, but probably will
No.
end up trading out or drafting a lineman or whatever. But at 0-5, they're just done, buddy.
Yep. Oh
So
yeah. Let's
uh,
just take them and say, get out of here,
change
Carolina.
it up a little.
The
Nice.
Panthers. So we are 6 weeks in, and we have 5 teams on the get out of here. I would say fairly confidently, Mike, in the 4 years we've been doing this, that is the most get out of here's after this at this early juncture of the season.
Right.
Which is unfortunate for the NFL because that means a lot of really, really bad games as you start
Right.
to move through some of this stuff as the season
So
goes
our
along.
our deepest category is underachieving with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams
9 teams. Yep.
underachieving. Very interesting. And the top half, the Super Bowl, Super Bowl is just Kansas City, but the playoff and the overachieving is AFC heavy, which should be no surprise to anybody that's watching football. The AFC's definitely the top conference this season. But you do have the Niners and the Eagles, who are absolute monsters at the top of the NFC.
Yep.
So, well, this is our little experiment here with tier maker and, the quarterway, quote unquote, mark of the NFL season. We're still dialed in. I'll still be watching every play of the Giants if I can physically do that. The Bills, I'll be rooting for you, buddy. I
But not
think
this
that,
week, right?
but not this week, as we have a little head-to-head matchup, a Sunday
Little
night
New York
special.
flavor, New York
Yeah,
state of mind, Giants and Bills. The Bills favored by 14.5, Mike. I know
yeah,
the Giants are bad. That is a big number.
that is a big
That
number.
is a big number.
I'm hoping it looks like Saquon's going to play.
Yeah.
Thomas hasn't practiced. Yeah, I don't know if he practiced today. Usually, if a player doesn't practice Thursday or Friday, they're not
Right.
playing
They're not going to
Sunday.
play. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I thought the NFL had scheduled teams that play in London to have the week off after that be their bye week, but apparently not with your Bills.
Nope.
So that's interesting to see how they. I think the Bills are going to come out and make a statement.
I do too. I do too, but still 14.5 for an NFL game, even if they may win by that or
Oh,
more.
sure.
It's a huge, huge number.
Sure. Absolutely. For the Giants' perspective, I'm just looking for them to play tough, play hard, you know, do what they're good at and see what happens.
Yep.
I just don't feel like they've found any kind of offensive rhythm. Certainly, like you said, can't do that when quarterback's on his back. With your secondary beat up, I'm hoping that we can take advantage of that a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing them, run the ball. Is Von Miller going to play this week, buddy?
If Von Miller played this last week, he was on a pitch
Oh,
count,
that's
so
right.
he was
That's
only
right.
in for 20 plays and didn't play in the second half. So he'll continue to work his way in. I think the big piece is looking at some of the other linemen that were out this last week. With Russo, they need to get their depth back. The ATN runs in the fourth quarter were clear. The defense was exhausted, and the defensive line in
Yeah.
particular couldn't hold up. I mean, look, AJ Epinesa played great, but he was on the sidelines in the fourth quarter getting oxygen because he played
Right.
50 plus plays. They had all these guys that played way more than they normally do. So they need some depth,
Some reinforcements. Yeah.
the reinforcements to help. And if they do, I think things will be fine.
Yeah.
But that's why they play the games.
I hate to agree, but I agree.
Yes.
So either way, we'll report back to you next week on how it all goes. Let us know what you think of the tier maker. We'll get that out there on all of our social media platforms, and certainly would welcome any comments or criticisms or encouragement. Let's be positive for a second.
Yeah.
That would be great. But until then, check out Lose With Us. Check out our Major League Baseball playoff podcast we might do sometime before the end of the year. NBA is getting going here shortly. I guess hockey dropped a puck this week, so
yes,
that
they
happened.
did.
A great time to be a sports fan, and a great time to listen to Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen as we strive for five. Good night, everybody.
See ya.